What a start to the season with the champions beaten at Tottenham, and what a start to the season for us because we've got our usual team back. Well, we have 2/3 of our usual team back because Dion is stuck in London traffic.
Fine.
Big fine.
He's at the far post. He's at the far post
He's
somewhere.
at the far post. He's arriving late with a run at the far post.
Exactly.
But Don and Chris are with us. How are you? Have you summoned well?
Amazing. Great to be back.
Yeah. How are you, Chris?
Brilliant. What a weekend's football.
Great weekend football and really interesting from the referee's point of view, which we'll get to later. But as far as that match is concerned, I mean, so many things to talk about. No Harry Kane, of course, who may or may not still go to Manchester City in this window. But Tottenham with Nuno Espirito Santo wasn't their first choice or their second choice or their third choice. But what a great performance from Tottenham.
A brilliant performance. They rode their luck. And Nuno said that after the game. Cancelo had a big chance. Morris had a chance. Fernandinho had the header early on. But you're gonna expect that when you play against City. I think it tells you where City are. They're a little bit behind everyone, I think, in terms of their pre-season. Talk about Harry Kane, it's exactly what they need. They need that goal scorer after losing Aguero. But what you would say about Tottenham, they look organised, they look fit, they were competitive, counter-attacking football, with speed at the top end of the pitch. So for Tottenham fans, I think they were a little bit pessimistic going into match day one. Not sure what their team's going to do, not sure what's happening with Harry Kane. But when you come away from that stadium and you beat Man City and you beat the champions and you play well and the atmosphere was incredible like it was at all grounds over the weekend, just a sensational weekend of football, and Tottenham fans will come away from that thinking, right, we can do something this season. That's what football does to you. Yeah. Sometimes it's the hope that kills you, but they'll come away from that game thinking, we're good.
And this man has always stepped up in Harry Kane's absence. Son, hasn't he? We go back over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Whenever Kane was injured, Son really blossomed in his stead. And it happened again with the winning goal yesterday.
Well, it might be a case if they lose Harry Kane. You know, they're talking about, well, what strikers can we bring in? Well, you've got Son. You know, he's proved when Harry Kane's not been in a Tottenham shirt, that he can do it because he's a sensational player, Mark. That's why they've given him a brand new contract. I mean, I'd like to think Nathan Ake could show into the byline, but once he does the trick, the step over, he comes inside. There's a bit of confusion between Ruben Dias and Ederson. Ruben Dias looks as though he's going to clear it. Ederson thinks he's going to clear it, so he doesn't dive to his right-hand side. But this guy is so underrated, I think, Son. Yeah. I think he's an incredible player. He'll sacrifice himself for the team. He can play wide left, he can play wide right, he can play right through the middle. He's got 2 great feet, you know. He even slips.
Talk us through Diaz's positioning there, because it's easy to say he's put his goalkeeper off.
Well, he's positioned normally in a Man City shirt because he's taught, and that's what Pep's teams have done. When everyone gets in a wide area and they're just about to pull the trigger or they look as though they're going to be in a dangerous area, they normally all run up to the 18-yard box. So it then frees up anyone that's trying to run in behind would normally be offside. It frees up Ederson's position because he's got more time to see the ball. He panics slightly because he knows it's Son and he knows he's going to take the shot on, so he retreats a little bit deeper. So then he's got right in front of Ederson. So Ederson's looking right down the barrel of Son taking the shot on, and Diaz comes right into that vision. Now, he gambles Ederson because he thinks Diaz is going to get contact with his knee. You can see it here. So then the goalkeeper doesn't dive. So there's 2 errors. One from Diaz being in that position, and the second error is always expect the unexpected.
Do you think Ederson should dive as 100%. If he's going to beat Diaz?
Yeah. 100%.
Because if he dives, you think he probably saves it.
Where he's a little bit unlucky, which you might say if you're in the goalkeeping union, you might say, well, if it took a deflection, he'd then be diving to his right-hand side. I don't think you can think like that. I think you've got to get the flight of the ball from Son. You dive to that right-hand side, because he's a great goalkeeper, Ederson. You save that comfortably. If it takes a deflection, goes in the middle of the goal, you hold your hands up and say unlucky. So a couple of errors there.
For whatever reason, Manchester City's record at the new Tottenham Stadium is terrible.
Awful.
Played there 4 times, including a Champions League game. Not only have they never won, they've never scored. Son has scored at every goal. Is there just something about some grounds for some players or teams which isn't even logical, where you just go, we can't get a result here?
I've had them as players. You go to some grounds, you think I'm personally not going to play well today. No. You have them grounds. And I think Tottenham are the ideal side. Sorry, they're not the ideal side for City to play because they sit in, don't they? You know, when you're playing against Man City, it's all right sitting in if you're one of the teams down at the bottom of the league and trying to hang on to a 0-0, but you've still got to have a threat going forward. Tottenham have got the threat going forward. So Bergwijn's pace, Mora's pace, Son's pace, they're a goal threat. Yeah. So they more or less say to Man City, right, worst case scenario, we'll take a 0-0 and we'll defend hard and we'll pressure midfield. You've still got to have the threat at the top end of the pitch.
Well, they did that, Tottenham, because they counter-attacked so well, didn't they? Exactly. That's what Tottenham did. And actually, that's what Nuno Espirito Santo's teams are very good at, counter-attacking. We saw that, didn't we, with that pace on the break.
Yeah. Hang on, I've got breaking news.
Oh, hello.
News.
Hello.
Oh, Don. Breaking news. Where you been?
Mark is my name.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining us.
Nice to meet you.
Don. Yeah, Chris. Hey, nice to meet you.
Sorry.
So that's a fine.
So, yes.
That's a fine. You know that. Right. Traffic?
Traffic was rather bad, gentlemen.
Yeah, traffic was rather bad.
You look amazing.
You're here in one piece.
Thank you very much. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
Back again, eh? Back again.
Yeah, back here we are.
How was the cushion?
Well, we
Speaking
had
of sense?
A lot of sense.
Yeah, we had the hot chocolate ready.
Did you?
Yeah, but then we heard you were in the building.
Binned it?
So we relaxed that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good, we're all here.
Sorry, I apologise for being late. I'm very, very sorry.
Well, you know it's live wherever you are in the world. You know it's live. That's brilliant. We were just talking about Tottenham winning yesterday. We were just getting on to Tottenham's pace on the counter-attack, which we can show everybody just how good they are, which is a little bit the way that Nuno Espirito Santo's teams are, actually, and they've got the players to play that.
I was surprised, actually. I was surprised at them just sort of going for it, Spurs, when they did. I understand that they sat back a little bit. Everybody does sit back against City, but when they went for it, they went in numbers, they went with pace. I think City were kind of shocked by that. No, listen, I was disappointed with City, I've got to say. Really disappointed with City.
Do you think they looked, Dion, like they had a bad pre-season?
Yeah,
Tottenham?
I do. Leggy.
Sorry, Man City.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I was at Wembley the previous weekend for the Community Shield, where, of course, a lot of the players weren't first-teamers because so many had been involved in the Euros, and it did look like, with so many international players... I know Tottenham had some international players, don't get me wrong, but they were playing a little bit of catch-up.
Yeah, City were giving the ball away so much. It was very un-City-like that they were giving the ball away under... Mendy was giving the ball away a lot, getting caught on the ball.
Mendy and Mahrez didn't have good games.
There was one part in the second half, I was watching it, and Benjamin Mendy had the ball at left-back. Mendy had the ball at left-back. I mean, these are the chances that we're seeing from Spurs, and Bergwijn should do a little bit better.
Yeah, much better.
But Mendy had it at left-back, and he put his foot on the ball, which is fine, took a little bit of a breather, and he kept holding his foot on the ball, and then he waited, and he waited, and he waited, and I'm thinking if the cameras panned on Pep, he would be fuming.
Absolutely.
Get that ball moving, get it zipping around, hurt Tottenham.
There was one point where he actually, in his right-back spot, he got to the ball first, and there was a Spurs player behind him, and I knew what he was going to do before he got the ball. He sort of went over it and tried to come back down the line. Yeah. But he kind of telegraphed it. Go, just keep the ball. You're not having a good game, keep the ball. And he didn't. He complicated his game. And I think a lot of City players just gave the ball away willy-nilly. Spurs are waiting for it, and they just attacked brilliantly.
Let's have a reflection on Jack Grealish, his first performance in Man City shirt, which actually, bearing in mind, it's obviously brand new teammates, struck me as pretty bright and pretty progressive.
I thought he'd done well. He was up against Tanganga, who was man of the match. I thought he was brilliant.
He was brilliant.
Looked after Grealish and looked after Sterling. But I've got to say, I thought he was bright. You can't... I mean, listen, he's £100 million, so the cameras are going to be on him. The eyes of the world are going to be on him, expecting he can win a game on his own, but you can't. So he'll get better. He's going to understand his teammates. He was very sharp. I like this little run.
Now, look, can I just make a point here?
Yep.
Right. Send it forward, you square it. That in a microcosm, that little moment there is maybe why Pep is ringing Daniel Levy up again this morning.
Well, he's got good vision, Jack Grealish, so he knew there was no blue shirt in the box.
Whereas he would be with a traditional centre-forward.
Yeah, I think what Jack's got to do now, he will have to change his game because he won't have as much ball as he normally has with Villa. He's normally the man. All his Villa teammates will be looking for him to give him the ball all the time. Man City have got 5 or 6, 7 of those players, so he's not going to get as much ball as he normally does.
What happens with Harry Kane now this week if you're Manchester City?
In regards to going to buy him?
You go back even higher because you need him. You've looked at that, you think, we need him even more than maybe we even realised yesterday lunchtime.
City want to dominate again, don't they? They want the Champions League. They want everything again. So if you want everything, it's very rare that you can do it without an out-and-out centre-forward. Give them the money they want.
Daniel Levy, watching that game, or even before the game, must have been praying that game was going to go exactly as it did, because they are massive winners in this Tottenham. Because what I'm hearing is they might be trying to offer Harry Kane a new contract with it written into his contract that he can go next year. But if they pay the money, City, Tottenham will take it.
What is it? Is it 150? Is it?
Well, it may be. Now, that's the point. City now might think we have to pay 150 because we need him. Yeah. So therefore, we might have to pay the extra 20, 30.
Well, I heard it was 130, 130.
Oh, to get him.
To get him.
Okay.
But what's happened now, as Mark's alluding to, is the whole world know that City need a striker.
Yeah.
And so does Daniel Levy. So Daniel Levy can go, do you remember that 130?
Yeah.
145?
What I meant to say was 150. So, yeah,
What
exactly.
I meant to say.
What I meant to say.
Not 145.
It's like when you do your negotiations here. What I meant to say.
Yes, absolutely. Which makes no difference at all what your negotiations are here. They are the same.
But Tottenham are big winners, aren't they?
Tottenham are very big.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they can sit back.
They played well.
They've still got Harry Kane on their books, who's in the matchday squad for Thursday.
Absolutely, yeah, for the Europa Conference. Absolutely.
Is Harry Kane the more sensible, or the bigger need, rather, for Man City?
Of course, because like Darren rightly said, you've got something like Jack Grealish, who you've got players, they've all got that capability. I still think that Jack Grealish dribbling with the ball is fantastic, what he does. I think his record shows that dribbling, he's created the most going at teams. But if we're going to talk about a team's, what they really need right now, like Darren said, if they get Harry Kane, it's good night. It's good night because, you know, I would not be if there's no way that you can stop it in respect of the fair play and they get all that sorted. I would give them what they want for him at this stage of Harry Kane. He's ready to go, and in that team, it's going to be good night nurse. You know, because for me that is the icing on the cake on the cherry, everything for me, and that's what they should be doing now. And if they're not doing that, it really makes me feel sad for Harry Kane simply because I can't even get into the vicinity of where his brain is right now, and his heart and his emotions.
So what they're saying is he's going to be back in training tomorrow. Of course, the added spice to this is that Tottenham and Manchester City play each other on Sunday. Harry Kane, will he play? And if we do see him, I can't imagine.
How awkward is
with
that?
everything that is just awkward. But I saw there was a brilliant quote on Twitter. Somebody said this could be the first ever recorded incident of a player not celebrating against his future club. Harry Kane comes on, Spurs get a penalty. Harry Kane
but can you imagine?
brushing off his teammates.
Yeah, but Kels, can you imagine? So Harry Kane comes on against City, the last 10 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever, scores. They win the game. City loses the title by 3 points. Harry Kane goes to, and then they lose it by not having him already. He's already cost them. It's really weird.
You know, I think Grealish gives Kane a problem because Grealish has gone for £100 million. Okay, I know there will be loads of people watching who will disagree with me. Kane has won 3 Golden Boots.
They shouldn't disagree with you.
He's won the World Cup Golden Boot.
Yeah.
He came close to winning a European Championship Golden Boot. He's not worth £150 million. He is worth significantly more than that if Grealish is a £100 million player. He scored 17 more goals than Grealish last season in a bad season for Tottenham. He is an elite striker at the peak of his powers. You look at
But that's not how worth is defined.
Yeah, but the thing is,
with Jack Grealish, it was a buyout clause. With Harry Kane, it's Spurs clearly do not want to sell him.
Daniel Levy, but having covered Spurs over the years, the way that Daniel Levy thinks is that he prices his players exorbitantly, and he will use the metric of, you know, what Kane has done compared to what Grealish has done, and say, if you want my player, this is the price.
If I'm sick, well, we've seen that they're linked with Martinez from Inter Milan. That's 60 million. Tottenham are not buying a 60 million player as backup to Harry Kane. So it seems to me that Daniel Levy's doing what he does. He's going to play hardball till the last second, like he done with Bale, like he done with Berbatov.
Possibly he's looking after the football club by making sure he has cover for Harry Kane before he sells Harry Kane.
Absolutely.
That's possible.
But this is what I'm saying, and what he'll do is he'll drag it out until the very last knock-ins, because at the end of the day, he knows that Harry Kane going there is a big thing for Tottenham. The fans, you know, the club, again, like we was talking about, the emotional pull that the club has on him, but it's time. It's time for him to go.
The minute that City drew Spurs, he was never going to go before the start of the season. Yeah. It was always going to be after the two teams play each other. Yeah. And I think now it will happen. We'll see.
It's a bonus that it's so early in the season.
But neither way is a good solution to that, is it?
Neither way.
Neither way is a good... What I wanted to ask you about is the way... You compare the Grealish deal, and it's a completely different deal. There's a buyout clause. The player wants to go. Villa can't give him, in terms of trophies, what he can get at Manchester City. It's straightforward. Spurs will have felt at various times that they could say to Harry Kane, we're about to kick on, we're about to kick on. And that there was the sort of vision of trophies, even if it hasn't happened. And there is a negotiation and a 6-year contract of Harry Kane's to get through. So they're different situations. What I was going to ask you about is the way that this has been played out in the press, particularly this Harry Kane deal, in terms of he's away, he's not reported. Then Harry Kane makes the statement and says, this is what I agreed with them. I'm going to be back as normal. I never refuse to train. I would never refuse to do that. I'm a professional player. Does it feel as though people in the media are being played here?
Yes and no, because the noises that Harry Kane has made since last year have been that he wants to leave. He wants to go to a bigger club, and the press are basically using his words to illustrate all of the pieces that
they don't need to make it up. He's giving it to He's giving it to them. He's giving it to all the players.
I was trying to be a bit more cerebral, but he summed it up really well. You know, this is not hints. The first summer I can remember where a player has basically just put it all on a plate. Wow. And you know, to be fair, he wouldn't be the first player to do that. Van Dijk, when he wanted to leave Southampton, said, "Look, I love you guys." But
I don't mean in terms of Harry Kane and wanting to move and sort of understanding where everybody is. I just mean this. It feels as though Harry Kane is either being cast as a villain or a hero or a victim in this of other people's aspirations and other people's needs and wants. And I just think in terms of how Harry Kane comes out of it as a person and in terms of his reputation, it feels as though there's a lot of jostling for that.
And I still think there's some way to go with that. I think the Spurs fans weren't happy when he didn't turn up for training. I think they understood that he wanted to leave, but they weren't happy when he didn't turn up. He says that there are reasons why he didn't turn up. There are lots of people out at the club and outside the club who are not quite on board with his explanation of what's gone on. And if it were the case that he was going to turn up, why didn't you put that statement out right at the start of the week rather than at the point that you did? So it doesn't look good. As for giving Daniel Levy a chance, well, he's been in charge at the club for 20 years. How many trophies has he won? How much longer do you give him to sell the vision of the club? It doesn't work, and he keeps having to rip it up time and again, so you can see why he would want to sell. But Kane signed the deal. I mean, you guys are the players. I mean, more and more, Kelly, we're seeing players not signing deals and letting their contracts run down because they want to have the power. I don't think you can have it both ways.
But didn't Jack Grealish sign a deal, but there was a buyout clause in there? And at least the perception of it is that they said, look, sign with us, that way we get rewarded when you go, and you don't go and you take all the money and the club's left with nothing, which is what essentially happens in a free transfer. They're not free, the money just goes to the player instead of to the club.
I read the other day Harry Kane mentioned that his brother's involved because he trusts him. He's the only person he can trust. Totally understand that. But for them not to have, for him, at the calibre of player he is, to not have a clause in that contract when he signed it in June before the World Cup, for that length of time, Tottenham have every right to do exactly what they're doing and ask exactly what they want, because they're talking about gentleman agreement and that. That's in this game. That's laughable. Laughable if they're leaving that office saying that yes, it's okay because when I want to leave, they'll let me leave because we've got a gentleman's agreement. That should be in there, and if that was in there, then then Harry Kane is probably at Manchester City already. It's for me from the management side. They've messed up.
There's something quite interesting, though, about representation in all of this, because, as you said, he's with his brother and is with a man that he trusts. Does it say something about agents and their role in football that he's got someone who isn't experienced, but he trusts, rather than going maybe for somebody who's more experienced? Is it an argument for kind of looking at who's looking after these players and what kind of job they're doing there?
Well, yeah, because, you have to say that at the moment, him having his brother, and if that is the case, and there can't be a clause, otherwise it would have been done, then he's in that...
Well, unless the clauses say 250 million and City don't want to play it.
We'd know that by now. But the fact is, it doesn't seem to be. And it's the only thing that I could see in this situation is that, yes, it's his brother, and at least you can get in the room with your brother and just slap him in his face. But the fact is, this should not
Don't
be happening.
do that at home. If any kids watching, your parents will not find that funny.
Do not.
Just say Ian told you.
You do not.
That's your
Harry
babysitting
Kane.
duties cancelled.
So, you know, if we're talking about the mega agents, you do not. Harry Kane's not in this position, and that is the only thing you can look back at this and.
Would either of you let
for.
family look after you?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
No,
Not if we get to this level.
I wouldn't want to put my family through the stress of that, and there would be a bias in them as well. And I think I appreciate it's really difficult to trust agents, but they are the experts, and you know you have to trust them. And I'd be gutted, and I wouldn't want to put my sister through that knowing that she could have potentially blocked a move or hindered it. And you sign a 6-year deal. If as a player that gives you security as well. If you're injured, God forbid, not talking about how
pay you, yeah.
They still pay you, so you can't expect to have it kind of both ways. And you have to have good representation.
Just because you're nice.
Yeah.
Just because Harry's a nice guy, he's got a nice persona.
It's a business, isn't it, right? And I think that's why a business, I couldn't have a family member look after me because that crosses lines for me and my sibling. And you just said it there, but I couldn't put them through it, and I wouldn't want to be represented by him.
Can you imagine how his brother must, if that's the case, and this is drawn, you do believe this will happen, but his brother, without that clause, without that, he must be feeling so bad at the moment, simply because his job is to do the best for his brother, which you have to think that the 200,000, whatever it was, he got paid a week when he signed that contract before the World Cup, which he went on to win the Golden Boot for, which when he come back, he probably would have been even in a stronger position to ask for anything he wanted. So for him to sign it before then is still baffling for me. But for him to not have the clause in, and I keep saying it, Tottenham have every right to hold out for as much as they can. They do. And instead of Harry Kane and whatever they're doing, he's not turning up to training, using his own house for firewood. I don't know what's going on with that, because all of a sudden we're looking at Harry Kane and we're starting to question Harry Kane and what he's about. And he's the upstanding England captain. And now we're saying he's not turning up for training.
I think that's the point you were making, that it's not now just about the deal and whether it goes through. It's about the reputation. And that points to the handling of the player and the way that you're going about trying to engineer the exit strategy. Because if you've got someone who's experienced, that's done very quickly, and that person very publicly in some cases takes the bullets for you, as we've seen with some agents. But because his agent is operating in the shadows, Kane is taking all the bullets, and his reputation, which before was pristine, is now taking a real hammer.
Yes, it is.
And I feel a lot of sympathy for that.
Yeah.
Should he have let it run out then, do you think? Should he have not signed the 6-year and just gone on his own terms?
I think he should have done. Personally, I think because you've seen a lot of players do that. Get it to 2 years, and then the onus is on the club. Either you accept, because Spurs have had over the years, as we've seen, big players leave or had to be sold because they've not wanted to sign a new deal. Eriksen went to Inter Milan and won the title last season because he went down to a year. If Kane had let his contract run out, he'd have been the master of his own destiny. Instead, he could be stuck at a club that he's made very clear he wants to leave. Yeah,
like I say, it was there for him. It's all laid out for him. He's signing the contract. He could say, listen, I want to sort this contract out when I come back from the World Cup. He would have came back from the World Cup with a golden boot. He could have negotiated anything he wanted. He could have said, I'll do 4 years. And if they say, well, we don't, then you say, well, I'll just see my contract out.
Do you guys think he should have let it run out?
I ran mine out.
I would like him to... you know what? For the way it's gone with Tottenham with him, I'd like to have seen it maybe go like it's gone with Jack Grealish. Let the club get something.
Yeah.
Let them get something. I know that they put this unbelievable figure on Jack Grealish, which somebody's paid, but let the club get something, because that's what the club is really worried about, is not getting anything. And he would have been in a position where he could have had them in a real position, and then he could have literally asked for what he wanted. And that is where the inexperience of the negotiations come. Then, 2018, now it's costing him.
Quite looking forward to Sunday.
So am I. I want him to score the winner.
I'm really looking forward to Sunday.
I really want him to score the winner if he comes on.
What happens? So do we think, if he's back in training tomorrow, do you think he'll play for Spurs on Sunday?
Physically, you couldn't, right?
Yeah,
even if there wasn't...
Yeah, he should be able to.
You think he should?
Well, I
Even
think that if he's on the bench and the manager wants him to play, he can put him on. What's he going to say? I'm not coming on? It's not like Tevez, I'm not coming on.
But when he walks into training tomorrow, brand new manager, Nuno Espirito Santo, Harry Kane sort of turns up, there's a little wash bag out of his car. He goes in, Nuno, you can call me Gaffer. I don't think I will be.
Brilliant.
But what happened?
I know.
What happened?
Yeah, but this is what's the beauty of it is that we're gonna actually see it play out. We're gonna see what plays out, and that's what's quite exciting.
I almost wonder if we're going to see it, watch it through our fingers.
I know.
Because it's
But
gonna
if he scores, would you celebrate if it was you?
Yeah.
Well, you'd celebrate
Yeah,
anyway.
it's true. I'm the wrong person
old
to
club,
ask.
new club,
Yeah.
whatever.
Kissing the badge and
I
everything.
just don't think he's going to play. I can't see him playing. Even from a physical point of view, coming in late, will he want to injure himself? Because it's just even from a physical point of view, I don't think he'll play.
Would you play?
You'd have to.
Yeah.
You'd have to, but... like you said, I'm getting the popcorn out. I can't wait. I want to sit there and watch it.
Yeah,
What if
it
he
could be his
plays
last
and he
game.
misses a sitter, or
It could be his last
or he gets
game.
brought down for a penalty, or he dives for a penalty? Not dives, but contact's made and blah blah blah.
VAR
Perhaps the
will
referee
sort it
makes
out.
his own mind up. But yeah.
Yeah, it could be if he does come, it could be his last game for him. He's saying bye to the fans, but I think that if Harry Kane gets in a position where he can score, he'll score because that's the kind of professional he is.
Yeah.
And if I was in that particular predicament and they asked, I'd play. I'd absolutely play. Of course I would.